And let's not forget, here's another one. You may have heard, the other big problem with Common Core English is how much sexually inappropriate stuff is in it. This is just the most obvious example. Now, Toni Morrison, this is for 9th and 10th and 11th graders, sophomores and juniors in high school. It's recommended. This is a book, as a 20-year university professor of English, this is a book we would never teach our freshmen in college. She's a great writer, African-American Nobel Prize winning author. But this stuff is way over the heads of kids that age. And I'm going to be careful because we have some younger ones here today. But the entire book is about a young girl, 12-year-old girl, who's the victim of rape and incest. And over the course of the book, she comes to form a very odd bond with her rapist, who happens to be a relative, and comes to start enjoying the context. I'm not going to leave it up. If I don't show you just a couple quick clips, I won't dwell on them. People tell me, I have had people, I used to not have them in there, but people would come up to me afterwards, look me in the eye, and tell me I was full of bleep. Okay, so here you go. I'm only going to leave them up for a second. And all the bad words are blotted out. But if you take a quick look, this is what sophomores and juniors, and by the way, the idea, you're going to hear from teachers, well, we just won't use that book. Interesting. Right? We've already seen it in dozens and dozens of public school districts across the country. It's already turned up in half dozen Catholic school kids reading books like this. And this isn't the only one. There are over 24 books that are as graphic, some of them required for upper level middle school kids, right? More of it. The things that you see here. A book called Dreaming in Cuban, which freshmen in high school are recommended to read. That is every bit as graphic. You're going to find out in about 5 minutes why they're doing this. There's a reason. I got to tell you, though, one more person we brought to Wisconsin that you need to look up and watch his testimony. That's Gary Thompson. He's from Utah. He's a child development clinical psychologist. He's African-American himself. He has 2 biracial daughters. One is gifted, the other is special needs. And he is absolutely disgusted about how Common Core is cutting out both of his girls, right, on both angles. He came here, and his testimony is brilliant, right? Watch what he says to the committee. I got to tell you, too, he has signed it. We have a document with 168 professional child psychologists have signed it. Democrats, libertarians, Republicans, all across the country, pointing out that this is developmentally dangerous for our kids, what they've done in English. Both in terms of the informational text, both in terms of the elevation of writing over reading, and especially in the terms of the inappropriate adult content that kids are reading. And it's not all just sexual. Adult in other ways, too. This all got started by one woman I met in New York City. I gave a talk 3 months ago in Albany, New York. 1,000 moms and dads turned out. And she was there. She's a clinical psychologist, little kids. And about 2 years ago, quick backstep. I didn't tell you this. There are 4 states in the Union where Common Core was rolled out early. New York, Florida, Virginia, and Kentucky. They've had it a couple years longer than you have. Those states, we have a whole lot of testing information now. We have a whole lot of not anecdotal, real information. A lot of this stuff in Wisconsin is, although that book, The Bluest Eye, has already been flagged in a number of Wisconsin school districts. But in those 4 states, we have a couple-year record for Common Core, and it's ugly. Florida, last year. Florida, last summer, Governor Scott was so concerned, the state legislature was so concerned after 2 years of this, that Governor Scott cut off the national testing. Now that means the state of Florida is still stuck with the curriculum in math and English, but they legally cannot be nationally tested on it. That's a huge first step. We've been trying to get Wisconsin to do that. It's not going to happen. Not in the next 6 months it ain't. But with Florida, who had it for 2 years, already cut off the testing. Kentucky has already asked for a suspension in math and English, and has already banned any new standards from coming into the state. Virginia, after seeing all the advertising they were one of the 4 states that said, "You're kidding me, we're not taking this." After all the effort to roll it out in Virginia, Virginia said, nope, 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 wouldn't even let it in the state. And New York, perhaps the second most liberal state in the Union. New York, just last week, 6 Democrat New York lawmakers proposed legislation to ban Common Core in New York State. And this blew me away 4 days ago. The entire state of New York teachers union, no right-wingers there, right? The entire teachers union of the state of New York called for an immediate suspension of Common Core and the firing of their DPI site, their Tony Evers, for bringing it into the state. You think about that. These are all things you can look up. And when somebody looks you in the eye from one of these school districts and tells you how wonderful this is, ask them, are those states crazy? Why are they doing that? Particularly the states that have had it for so long. What do we know that they don't? And when you get it from a Catholic educator, so you got a situation here where Catholic schools have rushed to take this. And even some of the most liberal, unfriendly to Christianity places are starting to throw it out. How do you justify that? Well, they won't. They don't. Nobody's ever going to give, they don't give you reasons. And as Stotsky herself said, we need to explore why so many of these exemplars are out of place, not just in the subject Common Core placed them in, but in a high school curriculum altogether. Here's philosophically Common Core math. This woman is a community organizer in Chicago. Can't make that up. And she's talking to a group of high school math teachers. And she's philosophically laying out what the premise of Common Core math is.
But even under the new Common Core, even if they said 3 times 4 was 11, if they were able to explain their reasoning and explain how they came up with their answer really in words and oral explanations, and they showed it in the picture, but they just got the final number wrong, we're really more focusing on the how and the why.
Now, in fairness to her, she's asked, this clip goes on for about 3 minutes. In fairness, she's asked a little bit later by somebody in the audience, but please tell us that the right answer matters. She says the same thing. It matters, but not as much as the process. Now, don't get me wrong about this. I would love for my kids to be able to do math at a high level and tell me how they did it, but that's not what this is. One of the key ways that Common Core math, particularly in those states that are now getting rid of it, is being done, the textbooks specify, is with this pair and share math, where you put kids in little groups of 2 and 3, and you assign them math problems. The teacher doesn't do much teaching. And the job of the kids is not to get the right answer. The job of the kids is to come to consensus. We have an actual exam from a mom in New York City in which the kid, she sent me the exam, kid got 6 times 7, the second grader. He wrote 42. Marked wrong, because the other 2 kids in his group had a different answer, and they agreed on the wrong answer. They got it right, he got it wrong. There's another kid from Kentucky who the answer to his problem was 111. I saw the comment, I got it at home. I can show you if you want to see it. I'll have to put it up here. It's in red pencil, the answer's marked wrong. In order to get the correct answer, you have to draw 111 circles, not write the number 111. And I know this seems really hard to believe. And also, I would tell you this, there are 1,000 goofy ways to do Common Core math, but the one thing that is almost universally agreed upon in Common Core math is you can't do the old-fashioned stacking math. We have moms and dads. I've got a mom in Green Bay. She is a medical doctor. She was taking calculus in 8th grade, aced her boards. She said, I can't help my 5th grader with his math homework. Not because I don't understand the math. I know there's those of you here who've had exactly that when you're trying to help your kids at home. You've told me beforehand. I'm not making this up. Because they're not doing, let me show you. I got one more short clip for you. This is a little girl, and interestingly, this little girl's mom is a math professor. So this little math professor is going to have her little girl work a Common Core math problem and talk about it. It's not all done this way, but it's all done in ways like it. One example, there's a school district that made the national news in Wisconsin because they required little kids to add only by drawing cows. So in basic addition, if the number was 12, you had to be able to draw enough cows so you could count the legs to get the right answer. That was required. You couldn't just add them. You had to add this whole other dimension. Here's one of the more famous, there are thousands of these online. Here's one of the more famous ones. It's a simple math question. You're going to emphasize the process, not the solution. You're going to add 3 numbers. Here they are. 1,500, 1,400, and 680. It's a simple addition problem, all right?
So what I want you to do is, can you solve that problem showing me the way that you learned how to solve it in school?
Okay.
And talk to me while you're solving it.
So we learned that a big square like this is 100.
So a square equals 100.
So we could make that 100 into a cube, which would make 1,000.
So if a square is 100, a cube is 1,000.
So let's just say that's 1,000. And now we still have to do 500.
So 500, 5 sheets, right? Now note, nobody's adding anything. This is just to get the numbers on the board that you're going to add, right? You're not adding anything yet. And the lines equal tens, and the dots equal ones.
For your birthday.
So now you got to get the second number on the board.
1,000.
Spoiler alert, I edited this because this whole problem took 8 minutes.
The dots represent 1.
Okay.
And now we have to add all of these together. So you could make 1,000. All of these together is 400. Now you need 600 more. So now I'm going to write the numbers down. So we have 1,000 plus, well, let's just say 3,000. Because we have 3,000 plus 100. So now we can erase all these sheets and hundreds and tens. Well, we can just add, that gives us a total of 3,763.
Okay. So now that problem you just solved took about 8 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what we're doing in school. But at home, I'm taught how to stack, and we're not allowed to do stacking.
Not allowed to do stacking math in Common Core.
Okay.
So I'm going to stack the numbers, which is way easy.
And she gets 2 different answers.
What are you thinking? You're looking at your problems.
I got 2 different answers.
You got 2 different answers. What do you think happened?
Maybe I counted wrong.
Looks like you did the stacking correctly, and that took you about a minute.
I did something messed up on this.
What do you think happened?
Well, since that way was more confusing.
Out of the mouths of things, right? Since that way was more confusing. Now look, let me say a couple things here, very important. Do I think that there are some kids for whom visualizing math that way might help? But I can tell you, as a bad math student, I'd have loved that. I'd have 8 minutes. How many, when you're putting kids in little groups and forcing them to come, how many problems can you do in a class? How many can you get done? As Milgram pointed out, one of the really problematic things about Common Core math is how slow it moves. He said, Professor Milgram said, what most people don't realize is that in every high-achieving math country in the world, Sweden, Taiwan, right, every high-achieving math country, they start algebra in 7th or even 6th grade. In American schools prior to Common Core, algebra was routinely started in 8th grade. Under Common Core math, algebra is pushed into high school, 9th grade. And you understand why now. It has to be. What that means is, Milgram said, our kids will not be able to get calculus in high school. How are you going to qualify kids? Where are the engineers going to come from? Where are our architects going to come from? Where are math majors going to come from? Our kids, you're pushing them 2 years further behind. Now, is it fair to say that I was going to say crappy, I just said it. Is it fair to say that a crappy math student like me would love to go at this pace? Is it fair to say, put me in a parent share group like that. I'm going to pick the math nerd, and I'm going to agree with him. I'd love to draw cows and squares. But what do you do with kids who are intrinsically able to do math? And you can pretend all you want that we won't be bound by this, but it's already happening. How about this? Just last week, from the City of Irvine, California Public Schools Incorporated. They had this on their website just last week. So many moms and dads were tired. Their kids were bored in math. Their kids were uninterested. Moms and dads couldn't figure out how to help them, so the kids were working ahead on their own. You had kids in 4th grade doing 8th grade math. The school district freaked out because that's not the Common Core way. This is what they put on their website. The links on this page are intended to support the classroom instruction that your child receives from his or her teacher. It is not appropriate to go ahead of the classroom instruction or to use this site to have your child work on math that is intended for use in subsequent grade levels. Your child's math instruction and placement will not change as a result of working ahead in these materials. This means that your child will continue to work in the grade level appropriate math materials regardless of any work that is done from these materials and submitted. It doesn't matter what your kid does. He's stuck with his other classmates. That's just staggeringly Orwellian. We are not in the business of helping your kid achieve at math. If your kid already knows what we're doing in 3rd grade, then he needs to sit there and wait till everybody else gets there too, right? That's California math, right?